Shimano 12-speed GRX Di2 is finally out today. Well, at least the 2x version of it is. And in this video, I'm gonna tell you what's new, what is old, what's continuing, what is missing, namely that 1x option and a power meter. And I will tell you how this new group compares to offerings from SRAM and Campagnolo on the market. We'll walk through what I like, what I don't like, and then tomorrow, after doing Pete Stetina's Paydirt out here in lovely Carson City, Nevada, I'll tell you what this group is like to race in a gravel race. Please take a second to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, click that Fast Cat coaching link above so my man Frank Overton feels like he's getting his advertising value out of this video. And now sit back and enjoy the ride on the new 12-speed Shimano GRX Di2. If you want to jump ahead, you can use the table contents down below to do so, to hit what's new, what's old / existing carrying over, the comparisons to other groups, race, impressions, feels, and then my bottom line take on this group as a whole and as pieces. What's brand new? The levers, the derailleurs, the battery, some of the logic that goes in there, and the chain rings. What carries over from an existing group or groups, the crank arms themselves, the cassette options, the rotors, and the calipers. Let's start with the pieces up front with the now wireless shifters. The wireless levers are now in many ways like the Rotor Ultegra options in that they wirelessly talk to the derailleurs. There is a button that can control a number of things, including a Garmin that you can activate by using your thumb. And there's a new type of shifting, or at least new for Shimano, where you press a button and you can move the front derailleur in both directions. You might be familiar with SRAM's design where you press both levers and that moves the front derailleur up and down. Here you can do that with a single button. This is called front shift next. How it works: press this button or any programmable button and it moves the derailleur one way. Press it again, it moves the derailleur the other way. What this does is frees up other buttons to do other things. So you've got 6 total buttons now, 3 on each side. So you can be shifting all the derailleurs and doing things like controlling your computer to start a lap, to change pages, or turn your lights off or on when those are connected. The fact that they're wireless is the big story now. It's the same design for those of you familiar with Shimano's 12-speed Road Di2 groups now, where the levers speak wirelessly to the drivetrain and the rear derailleur, front derailleur are both wired into a single battery that lives inside the frame or the seat post. The shape has been tweaked slightly. There's a bit less of the overhanging hook than there is on the 11-speed version, and to my hands it feels just a wee bit shorter on the hood. Still have plenty of finger clearance, which is one of my favorite things about electronic systems in general. You've got room for the fingers, for the 3 to 4 fingers. Some buttons are similar to before, maybe not quite as deeply indented, but this new shift of like hitting it once shifts your front, hit it again, shifts the front again. Try not to crash myself in the deep sand here. Out back, your rear derailleur, which retains the off-on clutch switch, is now the brains of the operation and has the plug-in charging port for the whole system. And then a new front derailleur optimized for 17 tooth jumps, which works with the 2 new sets of chain rings, either the 4831, which is what I have here, and the 4630. So the configurations are nothing new for Shimano, but the fact that it's 12-speed specific is new. The crank itself is an existing crank, which is now labeled dually. This is not a complete GRX group tip to tail with every single piece. There's a bit of a mishmash of road and mountain bike parts. You've got some special edition pedals, GRX pedals, that look very similar to Dior XT mountain bike pedals because they are XT pedals. They're just branded GRX. Similarly, the cassette options remain the same. You can run an 1136, which is what I've got here. The HG710 is an 11 to 36 cassette, and then you can run an 1134, which Shimano sells in 3 versions, the 9200, the 8100, and the 7100, also known as Dura-Ace, Ultegra, and 105 level cassettes. Confused yet by all the bits and bobs, what's new, what's old? Short of it, again, levers, derailleurs, chain rings are the new bits. All the rest is existing. So you can certainly buy all the pieces new. Shimano has not yet said what bikes will be, showing up with this new group on it immediately. Or you can buy just those new pieces if you already have the older pieces and bolt them on and upgrade to a 12-speed group. Similarly, because the cassettes are all 11 tooth and not 10 tooth, if you have an 11-speed wheel set that you like, with an HG driver, then you're good to go upgrading from an 11-speed to this 12-speed electronic group. So what is missing? Well, a few things. Let's start with the gearing. There are 2 2x chainring options, and for most people, those will be just fine. And I think that for most people phrase is what applies to Shimano's logic across the board and why they offer fewer options than their main competitor SRAM. The 48-31 here is probably big enough for most people, but not all Shimano sponsored racers, and probably not even all of Shimano's enthusiast amateur riders who like doing some races. You can buy bigger rings from the likes of Wolftooth, but Shimano only offers those options. Out back, having the 11 be the smallest cog is another way that the top end gear is limited. As I mentioned, the positive of that is it can go on an existing 11-speed wheel, and that is in keeping with what Shimano is doing on the roadside. But the net result is you just don't have nearly as many options for gearing as you do with SRAM. Second thing that is missing is the power meter. There is none. Shimano does make a meter. They took over Pioneer a while back, and there are some Shimano bikes you're seeing that come with Shimano power meters. Shimano has never yet done a GRX meter. For a while, my recommendation to folks was go buy a Stages meter. The Stages company has gone under, has disappeared, which is a great frustration. What happened there? Well, COVID and other things happened, but what that means for us is that Stages is no longer a viable option. 4 eyes, it makes a very similar crank mounted power meter, which is a good option. They make one for GRX. You can get a left meter for a reasonable price. I've been messing around with a few different pedal-based power meters and have thus far been lukewarm at best. I think you can click the SRM versus Rally video from a while back for my take on those 2 meters. I just got in a set of Asayamos, which I'm actually pretty hopeful about for a couple things. One, primarily, they fit and feel like a good pedal, and it's low stack height, good engagement, no weebly wobbly, no movement, and initially the power readings are good and the price is decent, so stay tuned on that. But in the meantime, as relates to this GRX group, a no power meter option from Shimano for GRX, which is a miss. And then the miss number 1, no 1x. When Shimano rolled out the mechanical GRX 12-speed last year, there were 3 options and 1x was one of them. Shimano said a 12-speed GRX Di2 1x is coming, but won't say anymore. Won't say when it's coming, what the gear options will be, anything. Just the fact that it ain't here yet and we ain't telling you no more. So for many folks, that's a bummer. For me, I like 2x for a number of reasons, but I realize 1x for many of y'all is quite popular. But for now, at least, you ain't getting it here. Pressed on this, Shimano doubles back to that same answer I gave you guys earlier of for most people, in that they say 70% of the gravel market globally still is going for mechanical, and most are going for 2x. So electronic is a smaller piece of the pie, and 1x electronic is a niche within that niche. Be that as it may, if you find yourself in that circle within a circle, you do not yet have the latest and greatest option from Shimano. Turns out it's hot in the desert. Okay, so that's a quick overview. Go get cleaned up, get ready for tomorrow. Stetina's Paydirt, which is a 3-time segment enduro style gravel race that I'm quite fond of the concept of. 79 miles, which is to me a good distance, good fun distance. It should be good and plenty, but not so much that we'll be cracked for some time. So hopefully I will be able to speak somewhat coherently after doing this event and give you all my impressions of this new group. I just did a shakedown ride here in Carson City. I've got this group on a Time 80 HX 45 bike, a bike many of you guys have been asking me to test. I've been eager to test and now finally got my grubby paws on. Watching the Giro en route, courtesy Zero. Eyes on the road, Will. Good morning from Carson City. It's race day here at Stetina's Paydirt. I'm gonna be testing out this new 12-speed GRX Di2. This video is supported by FastCat Coaching, where now you can get trained like a pro for less than $20 a month. I've been using FastCat Coaching training plans since well before the good folks there had an app. Now you can get unlimited training plans as part of your app subscription. There are many gravel race specific plans like Belgian waffle rides, the Steamboat gravel plan, and then for other gravel events like Stetina's Paydirt, you could use the flat gravel training plan or the hilly gravel training plan. All of these training plans scale to your available time to train, and then you can move workouts around based on your schedule or life popping up, work conflicts, family situations, etc. CoachCat, FastCat's new AI coaching technology, gives you immediate feedback on your workouts, and then you can ask CoachCat questions. One key part of all the FastCat gravel training plans is the simulation ride. This is where you go out on the weekend and do a big old ride using all the gear and nutrition that you plan to use on race day. The bike, the tires, the gels, the hydration and caloric mixes. That way, when you get to race day here, you're perfectly comfortable with all your equipment and nutrition, and you can have your best day possible. So go check out the FastCat app. You can get your first month free, no credit card required. You can check that out at the link above or in the description down below. Give it a test ride, give it a taste test, see how you like it. How you feeling about Stetina's Paydirt 2024?
Couldn't ask for better weather. Biggest registrations we've ever had. Everything's on an upswing, and you can feel it. You know, like the special events, they have that feeling in the air, and we got that this year. So I'm so proud of this event right now.
For folks who are unfamiliar, could you tell us like the general format?
Yeah, basically how you ride. You know, you rip apart a trail or a climb or a descent with your friends, but then you regroup and you high five and you roll on to the next one. So long time segments, but in the middle, you're off the clock as long as you need to recover or regroup, and basically you ride as it makes sense for you.
Thanks for putting on the party, Pete.
Yeah, buddy.
Andiamo! Look at this set.
Sir. I've often joked it would be great to have timeouts in bike races, and this one you actually do have timeouts, so you can hang out with your friends in between the segments. We just did the first one, which was, what was that, like an hour long? Felt like an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
15?
Hour 15. Rattly. Rattly. Managed to drop my glasses, drop a bottle, drop myself from a couple groups, but did not drop my chain. Here for clutch derailleur. The scenery is just ridiculous here. Have another aid in Genoa, where the question is to hot dog or not to hot dog. We shall see. I asked Bobby Wintle, the man, the myth, the legend behind the Mid-South. He answered with a tattoo. Moment of truth. Will they turn to go to the bar or turn to go to the aid station? No bar today. Not yet. Not today, Satan. Or at least not until after the event. Right turn. Let's see what we've got in here.
Wait, one final question. Do you hot dog mid-race?
I mean, we made a pact we were going to hot dog mid-race, so
Okay.
we're hot dogging.
I mean, we should be asking Chris Cosentino here, you know, the chef.
How to chef up a dog?
Yeah. Mid-race hot dogs.
Got some toasted buns in the back, or fresh buns.
I'm going to take a fresh one.
When in Rome, right?
I mean, oh!
When in Carson City.
Yeah. I mean, long day out here. What do you want? Need some salt? Do you want,
Oh.
just ketchup? Sure.
We're gonna save that for later, you know?
One bite, dog.
The transfers are on pavement, but since the clock is off, there's really zero penalty for running a fat tire or, like Leah, the Lauf True Grit fork. This helps with the conundrum you often get in the gravel race of which part of the course do you optimize for? Here you optimize for the time segments, which are chunky and a wee bit mountain bikey, and then just cruise the in-between bits. Now, moment of truth. How much has this hot dog digested as we start segment number 2 into the single track? Go. Don't fall down. Love it. Whenever it's possible, love to sneak past you. Thanks, brother. Thank you. Thank you. Now back in Carson City. Finishing up in the park. We got food, we got beer, we got music, we got grass, we got shade, we got good times. I ran out of battery, both metaphorically and literally with the GoPro. Had to go back and charge that up. I also got a Frosty, as you do. I'm gonna go get myself cleaned up. And we'll come back and we'll do a little wrap on how this new 12-speed GRX Di2 handled out there on the dusty trails and roads of Stetina Paydirt. Clean bike's a happy bike. That's right. Now we're back at the hotel, in the courtyard of the Courtyard Hotel under this gazebo. Hopefully the light isn't too weird on the bike. Got one of Pete's favorite revision beers here. Let's talk about the bike in the context of Stetina Paydirt. And again, let me reiterate, I love this format. Pete didn't invent the segment format, what many call the enduro format, what Grinduro called the Grinduro format, but he's getting close to perfecting it here, I think, in that We had a nice long neutral rollout, and the neutral was actually neutral, like rolling along, chatting with folks on pavement, on some crushed dirt paths, rolling through the old cattle pens, rolling next to the acequias, the arroyos, and then climb proper starts, and that was about an hour and change, I want to say, for most of us. It starts super rough. Pete calls that first climb the climb out of purgatory, and it's, like, even with these 44 mezcals, which I had at like 32 and 34 PSI accordingly, it's rough. There's a lot of people on mountain bikes who we were envying early on. Having good, solid braking for the first very rattly downhill was a nice thing. It's 160, 140. Much like the new SRAM Red, which I was talking about a few days ago, it's designed to have power not just in the drops, but when you're on the hoods. And descending, I'll be in the drops a lot, but for a lot of gravel, I'll be up on the hood. So having strong braking in both places is a nice thing. Definitely great feel there. Rotors calipers aren't brand new, but relatively new, and definitely relatively good compared to, say, some of the SRAM options. Campy Ekar now has two gravel groups, Ekar and Ekar GT, which is the more cost-affordable version. I don't like a lot of things about the Campy group, including the thumb shifter, but I love the feeling of Campy brakes, and these are pretty darn close to that. So I'd say in like the hierarchy of gravel braking, it'd be those Campy Ekars, the GRX pretty darn close behind, and then SRAM Explorer in third place, still on the podium. Let's talk about other bits here. 4831 is one of two chainring configurations. I was wishing I had a bigger gear at the long downhill part of the first segment. Not so much that it was spun out, like I still could pedal, but at a high cadence, and on parts where it's super rough, I like to have a bigger gear just because that takes some of the pressure off the saddle and the bits on the saddle. So there I would alternate between pedaling and just standing, or just putting pressure on the pedals to take some of the pressure off. That was the only time I felt like I would have used more gear than was on offer here. The rest of the time, the range was great. I certainly was in the low, the 3136. One nice thing about having your drivetrain connected to your computer is that your computer, at least many of the Edge versions, will beep at you when you hit the bottom or the top of the range. So I heard that beep more than a few times, like, yep, that's all I got there. Dropped a few things. Dropped my glasses, got them back from a photographer. Thanks, boss. Dropped myself from the front group due to gravity and, watts per kg, that's a thing. But did not drop the chain, despite it being, as I mentioned, super rattly. So that's, kudos to the clutch derailleur. First time I saw Shimano doing a clutch derailleur was on Ultegra RX at Tour de Flanders, when the likes of Kiel Reinen, who dipped his toes in gravel post World Tour. Kiel was one of the Trek World Tour riders that was testing out the clutch derailleur then, and since, and now that has become just a common thing on absolutely all gravel bikes, and many road bikes too. Bits falling out of the trees into my Revision Disco Ninja Northeast Style Hazy IPA. Pretty good. Let's talk shifting in terms of the multitude of options at the hand, and then how it acts back here in the context of the race and how it compares to good old SRAM options. At the top of the video, I mentioned how each lever now has 3 buttons, 2 at the lever and then 1 thumb. Also, I realized on this bike that Shimano built up, you can have a 4th if you plug in a satellite shifter, which was done here. The sprint shifter, which you can put wherever you like. They're wired in, unlike SRAM's wireless blips. You can put them wherever you like. For gravel, I think it makes sense in a couple spots. One, if you're a long haul trucker, you know, putting it on the aero extension so you can shift, you know, when out on ski bins, and then, you know, down in the drops. I appreciated that on this bike on the drops when it was really rattly and I had my hands wrapped around the bars in the drops. Not like it's a big deal to move your fingers up to the lever, but just being able to fire pew 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 with the inside of your thumbs was a gratifying thing. My action camera battery died on the third segment, which was a bummer. The second one is windy, super fun, single track. I was trying and failing to keep up with my buddy Leah, who just descends like a wild woman. That ski racing background certainly behooves her. You know, I tell myself at the start, like, oh, just stay with Leah, and then I chicken out and she rides away from me. The third segment was a lot of single track, but in the pine trees, and it trends upwards at a shallow grade, like, you know, 2 to 4% most of the time, and you're just like bobbing and weaving in and out of the trees. I felt like an Ewok on a stolen stormtrooper speeder bike, just diving through the trees and firing away with the sprint shifters on the levers there. Pew, 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 pew. One more piece on the ergonomics of the levers. I thought after riding yesterday that the reach was shorter than the 11-speed levers. Turns out that's not the case. They're pretty darn similar, just perhaps that these levers were rotated up and the particular curvature of this bar made it feel a bit shorter. That speaks to how important fit is, and one thing that I encourage folks to do when you're getting a new bike set up is to ride around without the handlebar tape on, so you can just make small adjustments to the hoods, because that has a huge impact not just on the angle of your wrist, but, you know, how the meat of your hand sits on the bar, and just little changes there can make big comfort changes, both positive and negative. So that's something I'd encourage you to do if you've got a new bike, or even if you've got an old bike that doesn't fit perfectly. One way to start before you start spending money is just, you know, mess with the angle of the lever. So my mistake on saying that these hoods are shorter. One thing that I love about Shimano is the front shifter is pretty bomb-proof. Not that it can't be tricked, but it shifts noticeably quicker than SRAM's options, and it's just a dependable thing whether you're on the gas or you're going over rattly bumps. This is a 17-tooth differential going from the 48 to the 31. I like 2x for a few reasons, and one is on rolling courses when you come up to kickers, instead of having to shift a bunch, this is me shifting a bunch on the rear derailleur, you can just shift once on the front derailleur to drop it down a bunch of gears, grind your way up, spin your way up the kicker, and then when you get to the top, hit it once, and then you're on a big gear, you know, over the top. So I did that I don't know how many times. If there was a person from SRAM sitting here, they would chime in and say, well, you know, if you had a SRAM bike with the Axis app, we could tell you exactly how many times you shifted, because it's all right there in the app. But since we don't, I'll just say lots. Shifted lots on the front derailleur. Under power, over rough stuff, it performed flawlessly the way I and many of us expect Shimano to at this point. I did this race naked, data-wise, in that I seldom wear a heart rate monitor these days, because what are you going to do with that? And I just don't like having stuff on my body, really. I'm already wearing the chesty for filming. I did not have a power meter, which I was griping about at the top of the video. Having a power meter does a couple things. One, you can pace yourself a bit during events. For the most part, during racing, I'm just looking where I'm going, trying to stay on wheels, you know, being reactive to other riders around me. But on longer climbs, it is nice to have a check. Early on, it's like, hey, maybe take it down a notch, and then later in the race, it's good to be like, you know, you can do a little bit more. But here, no option there. So that's something I wish I had. As I mentioned, I'm going to be testing the Asiamo pedals, which I hope act like these trusty old XT pedals. These are the GRX version of the XT. What I love about these pedals is that they're super reliable. The design hasn't changed in 800 years or whatever, which you could take issue with, I suppose, but I just like the fact that it is completely predictable as far as how you get in, when you get in, and how and when you get out. So a number of times in the sandy single track section, I'd pop a foot out just to be on the safe side, as you know, I was up on the edge of traction and the edge of my meager skills, and just knowing you can get out when you want to, but not when you don't. I mean, it sounds like a basic thing, and in many ways it always should be with pedals, but compared to like the Garmin Rally power meter pedals, those bad boys, I'd come out often when I didn't intend to, and then, you know, sometimes it was a little vague trying to get out. So all that to say, I still think the best way to do power meter is elsewhere besides the pedal. You know, SRAM has the integrated cork, which works quite well. And now for GRX, we don't have an in-house option. So it's, if you've got an older stages, which I do, you know, that's an option. And 4Eyes continues to make new GRX cranks. Again, the cranks themselves are, you know, a carryover. You know, same spline, same exact crank as 11-speed. Now they're just labeled for both groups on there. So if you've got in older stages, that still works. Pricing, that's a key one, right? Got my notes here. The full group is $33.87 US. That is roughly 50 bucks more than the 11-speed. So that's a surprising, refreshing change. And the new is basically the same as the existing. I'll put the piece by piece pricing down below so you can peruse that. Bottom line on Shimano's new 12-speed 2x GRX Di2 electronic group is this. One, it's not a complete overhaul. It's a number of refinements and a few pieces that carry over from both the road and mountain bike side. Two, it works really darn well. You know, it's building on Shimano's existing strengths, dependable shifting, great braking, and a lot of different shifting options in the cockpit. Missing, as mentioned, is the 1x option. So if you want 1x from Shimano, you got to go mechanical. Years back, I did a piece saying, you know, trying to answer the question of what should I get for my gravel bike, 2x or 1x? I'm like, well, it depends on what you like. You know, it's like, what kind of beer do you like? I can't tell you what your preference is. I like 2x, so for me, this is a great solution. If you like 1x and you like electronic, which I'm a fan of, SRAM is still your option there for the new, for the latest and greatest. And they've got a variety of 1x options, electronic shifting, hydraulic braking. Shimano has got that in the works. They just won't say when. So that's where we are with Shimano RX 825, the 12-speed semi-wireless dedicated gravel group set. As for the bike, times ADHX45, another list of letters and numbers. Why do engineers name things like this? It was an impressive bike. I won't go into the details here. You have to come back later. I'll probably take this bike to Unbound, maybe switch up the wheels, keep the drivetrain, and give you a deeper dive on the beautiful blue frame set. But first impressions, feels really good. It was soft in a positive way, like not a mushy, vague way, but just not as firm as some carbon gravel bikes can be. Let me know what questions you have. I will answer them as best I can in the comments, and then I will answer them also in subsequent videos on this bike and this drivetrain. But in the meantime, I thank you for watching. I thank you for subscribing. Whether you're a Shimano person, a SRAM person, a Camping Yellow person, or none of the above person, hope you can get out there and enjoy the ride.